It's currently Saturday afternoon, and here I am driving through downtown Georgetown because why not? It's time to chill, time to cruise, and the perfect car to fart around in is obviously a big Cadillac. But this ain't any big Cadillac. This is the brand new CT6. What makes the CT6 so special is all the tech, all the weight savings, all-wheel drive, four-wheel steering, magnetic suspension, panoramic sunroof, spacious trunk, roomy back seat. So let's take a good look at the CT6 today and discover what makes it so special. So here we are on a very deserted country road, and it's got some twisties in it. I got the car in sport mode. It's in drive. There's really only one mode, it's drive. You can use these paddles on the back of the steering wheel, but they're not really important. What is important is the way this thing sounds off the line, and how it launches off the line, and how it handles in the corners. It really holds its own, and I'm going to show you that right now. Very quick off the line, very sturdy through these corners. Brakes are nice and responsive. It actually has a very faint amount of understeer, and that's remarkable considering it is all-wheel drive. But you can just throw it into these corners, and it's gripping hard. I used to be able to throw some cars into a four-wheel slide. Not anymore. These things are so taut and so grippy. The amount of work and the amount of speed it would take to get into a four-wheel slide, not worth it. Unbelievable the way this thing just cuts through these corners. And that's why I wouldn't consider this an S-Class competitor. I'd consider it more of like an E-Class competitor. It's just bigger than an E-Class, but it handles better than an E-Class. It's just so fixed to the road. So you can fart around in downtown Georgetown, or you can go ripping through some canyon roads, all in the same car. Sounds like a good deal to me. The CT6 is actually available in 3 different engine choices. You can get a 2-liter 4-cylinder, you can get a V6 with 3.6 liters of displacement, or you can get a twin-turbo 3-liter V6. This car actually has the 3.6-liter V6 naturally aspirated, and it produces 335 horsepower. What's interesting about that is the 4-cylinder engine actually produces more torque. It produces 295 pound-feet of torque, but I'm not really interested in that model because it's a 4-cylinder, and I'm not a fan of that in a big luxury car. There is also the twin-turbo V6, which produces 404 horsepower and 400 pound-feet of torque. And while that may sound like a monster, the reality is premium fuel is required on the twin-turbo, and premium fuel is recommended on the 4-cylinder. This car runs on regular unleaded, so you can get away with putting the cheap stuff in this car. This V6 actually gets 1 mpg better on the highway than the twin-turbo. So the reality is this costs less to run on highway cruising than the twin-turbo. Now, as far as performance, they're all going to be different, and the twin-turbo actually weighs the heaviest. It's just around 4,100 pounds. This vehicle is just around 3,900 pounds. So there is a weight difference between all the vehicles. The lightest one being the 4-cylinder. Now that we have the powertrain addressed, and that's out of the way, we can start addressing the technology. Now, this thing has a lot going for it. Blind spot assist, lane departure, emergency braking, radar cruise, heads-up display, night vision with pedestrian detection. That's just the driver's technology. That doesn't even include the Q system that's been updated, and the touchscreen system with Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. A bunch of stuff is in this car. It's too much to list, but it's all here. And then it's accentuated with this optional Pan-Array /Bose audio system. Overall, if you option one for your needs, it's most likely not going to hit the $77,000 price that this thing comes in at. For instance, this one has four-wheel steering, which includes a magnetic suspension. Now, as far as this suspension system, in tour mode, which is the normal mode, it still feels a little rough. This actually isn't the floaty, boaty, granddad Cadillac that I had come to expect from a big Cadillac sedan. It's actually very taut, very nimble. So there are some problems with the CT6, and it's very minor, but this is what it comes down to. I have, as you can see here, a panoramic sunroof, and I have a button to tilt it, and it will tilt but open the screen, right? But it gets very hot in here, and even in Texas, the sun that comes through here is blazing hot, and I want to close this. So I hit this button, and it tilts closed. But now I want to close this shade. I hit the front shade button, and it opens. I have to hit it twice to get it to close, and it should basically close if it's partially open. The second thing, temperature indicators are very dimly lit, so it's actually hard to see what temperature I'm at in broad daylight. And lastly, while the rearview mirror is cool, when you do put it in video mode, it's hard to get your depth perception correct when you're looking in the normal mirror and then when you go to an actual video screen. It is cool to have, but I don't know if I could actually drive with that on at all times. It's kind of weird. Did I mention this car will also park itself? So you can press the button here for parallel parking, or you can press and hold it for perpendicular parking. So I'm going to press and hold it. And now we're looking for a perpendicular parking spot. And as I cruise through the parking lot, it'll say stop. And then back up slowly. So here we go. Let's see what it does. Oh man, that's mighty close. Now it says stop, drive forward slowly. So here we go. Stop, back up. Wow, that's some crazy wheel movement there. Stop. Parking complete. I wouldn't call that even. What do you think? There's a lot of space on that side, and not much on that side. Notice how the steering wheel returns to center so you can read the message. Nice touch. Now the interior of the CT6 is phenomenal. It has great finishes, it's got a great look. This area here, just for the air conditioning, and I can actually see what temperature I'm set at. All the audio controls are up top, and what used to have to be a push button change, I can now just swipe the volume for up and swipe the volume for down. Now I still have the same touchscreen display that you would get in other Cadillacs and other GM products. It's the same navigation system, but I now have trackpad, and the trackpad has actual responsive gestures to it, but you can also use 2 fingers and 3 fingers to go through the menu and select what you need. And in audio, I'm going to select browse. In here, I can use this scroll bar to go up and down through the list, which takes quite a long time. Or I could use this trackpad, and by using the trackpad and 2 fingers, I can now easily scroll through this huge list. If you use 1 finger, you now get to individually go through each one, and you can hear a click in the trackpad as you do it. Listen carefully. So in this case, I'm going to select Med Opera. That's a lot easier to use than what I've been accustomed to in the CTSV. So the CT6 is a huge improvement. The steering wheel is a big mess because it's got these really big buttons and a really tiny volume control here. This button to raise the volume is smaller than my fingernail. And that's one of the most popular buttons I'm going to be pressing in this car. But these other buttons here control the center display, and then this is cruise control, which also includes adaptive cruise. And then we have here distance warning so we can set the gap that we want to have between this car and the car in front. And then we also have a heated steering wheel, so this will actually keep the car within the lane if it recognizes the line markings. These are the track up and down buttons. So here I am on the freeway, this is I-35, and you'll see the speedometer and the speed in the heads-up display. Now if I use cruise control and hit set, adaptive cruise is set to 51, and you'll see that if I change through the menu here, I can actually change and see all my settings. So here's driver's assistance, and I can actually change here the gap adjust. So I'm going to go far, and now I can change my speed. I'm going to hit up, and you'll see I'm going up to 70. Let's do 75. Now the cars up there have accelerated, and I'm accelerating. And as we catch up to the cars in front, it will keep a pace and a distance at the same time. And if traffic slows down, like it is now, you'll see the car slows down, and that car is now out of range, and now we speed up. And the speed limit here is 70. Now, despite all these features and all this technology, the car is far from perfect. Let me show you a few examples, especially on a car of this price range, why I think they can improve in certain areas. While we do have sunshades, they're more token shades than anything else. Look at this gap. That's insane. There's no privacy provided by these gaps, and the same thing goes for this back screen. On the freeway at 70 miles an hour, the road noise is acceptable, but there is a lot of wind noise coming from the A-pillar. And I don't exactly know where it's coming from, actually, but I hear it about here. And yeah, I think it's just actually how this car has been designed. And I haven't heard wind noise like that on cars in a long time. These seats are weird. They're basically individual seats, but they feel like a bench seat. The support is very lacking, and the adjustment capability is not what you'd expect. I mean, right now the seat is at its lowest point, and I have hardly any headroom. And for a car this size, just this much headroom, and I'm 6 feet tall, this is not something that you'd expect in a big car. And this is the problem I have with the CT6. The CT6 is a premium luxury vehicle, but it's not a luxury vehicle. And Cadillac did announce that they axed their plans for their even bigger flagship, and I think that's a mistake. So right now, what you're getting is their biggest flagship, but it's not really the best they can do. And if you're going to spend $88,000, honestly, just get a CTS-V. You are getting a lot of features, and you are getting a very light, nimble Cadillac with that. So while I think $77,000 is a little too much to pay, $65,000 isn't too much to pay, especially when you consider what's out there. Every state has a Georgetown, and in every Georgetown, you'd expect everybody with a Cadillac to have some big old floaty boat. And the new version of that big old floaty boat is the CT6. But it ain't a floaty boat. However, when you want to cruise and you are downtown in a Cadillac, there's no better way. You get the attention and you get to enjoy the drive.